matzo. Some call it the bread of affliction, and who can blame them when they're thinking about something like this. This matzo is bland and crumbly and has been clinically proven to be a leading cause of dry mouth. However, there is another matzo option. This matzo is crisp and flavorful and mouth-watering. So what makes this matzo different than that other matzo? It's because this matzo was made by me, Dan, in this very kitchen and with these very hands. It is quick, it is fun, and they are so delicious that you will actually want to eat them all year long. Don't waste your time with a flatbread that leaves you flat. Join us today as Kitchen of the Dan unveils the ancient mysteries of the matzo of redemption. Ah, you're back then. Excellent. Let us begin. The ingredients list for matzo comes straight out of the book of Exodus. No spoilers if you haven't seen the movie or whatever, but it does say that matzo is made with flour and water and no leavening. So here is 276 grams of all-purpose flour, and that is 172 grams of all-purpose tap water. And that is not leavening. Well, let's just get that straight up front. This is 6 grams of flaky baking salt. Now, authorities have yet to achieve perfect unanimity as to whether or not you're supposed to put salt into your matzo dough, but I have really, really good reasons for thinking that it's essentially mandatory to do so, and once it's happened, it's essentially irrevocable. Oh gosh, it already did. There's salt in our flour, so what are we going to do about it? Mix it up. That's right. We're going to mix our salt into our flour very briefly, and then throw in our water. All of it, all at once. It's that simple. The idea here is to blend the water and flour briskly, not so briskly that it gets kicked out of the bowl, but do your best to combine them fully and promptly. Already I can see that there is very little free flour left in this bowl. I have a nice shaggy dough, and I'll just scrape it off the dough hook here a little bit, but I think it's about time for me to get in there with my hands. It's one of the things I like about making matzo this way, is being able to put my hands on it and feel exactly what work needs to be done. And at this point, our dough has cohered enough in the bowl. There's almost no free flour left. I'm just going to dump it onto my prep surface and knead it briskly but gently until that dough is completely absorbed. Feels really good too. This dough is soft and getting elastic and just starting to get a little bit sticky. Stickiness is one of my diagnostic criteria here. When the dough is sticky, that means that it's been blended enough. And you don't want to blend it too much because you don't want to develop too much gluten. That might make the matzos a little bit less crisp. But this is about as much work as it takes to make an absolutely beautiful ball of matzo dough. It's going to produce for us 8 beautiful sheets of matzo, which means I need to break this into 8 pieces. Does not mean you need to watch me do it. So cool your jets. I'll be back shortly. Thank you for your inertia. As you see, I now have 8 approximately equal doughy balls. And as magnificent as they are, we don't have time to stand here all day admiring them. We have work to do, and this is where things get sticky. By which I mean actually sticky. This dough is super sticky, and I'm going to start using bench flour here on my work surface to make sure that the balls don't stick to the surface or to my little rolling pin. I'm using a smaller than usual rolling pin because these are little loaves, and I don't want to. I want to maintain the delicacy of control over them. Rolling out the doughy balls. I'm going to begin by demonstrating with ball number one. Ball number one likes manumission and long walks in the desert and getting crushed very gently with the palm of my hand into a disc. And who wouldn't, of course? This is part of the process of getting the dough to relax a little bit to allow you to roll it out very thin, and you got to be gentle to help the dough relax. I'd be tense too, probably. Once I do have something that's ready to be worked, I'm going to roll from the middle to the edges to make a shape that I would describe as generally circular-ish. It is not a perfect circle, and if you can make a perfect circle, I admire you deeply. I am not one of those people, but that's not going to make a difference here because we are going to stretch this dough out. This isn't the final shape of the matzah. However, you can see now we have one delightfully thin, doughy disc. And I'm going to need to do this 3 more times before we can move on to the next step, because we'll be baking these in an assembly line process in sets of 2, and we'll need to have the first 2 sets of 2 ready to roll before we can move on to the next phase of the process. So I've got to roll out 3 more doughy balls. You don't need to watch me do it. I look forward to your return momentarily. All right, you good? You okay? Good. We're going to move on now. It's time for us to engage in the Reed Richards portion of our process here. We're going to learn how to stretch and dock our incipient matzahs. I'm going to start again with number 1. We're going to try to go in order straight down the line so that we get the best consistency possible. This sheet is very gentle, very delicate, I should say, but a little bit thick. So I'm using both hands and I'm very gently stretching it out. I'm kind of looking through it a little bit to see light passing through it. And as I stretch it, it becomes translucent and I can see where I have stretched and where I haven't stretched. I'm going to move that from about a 6-inch disc to about a 10-inch disc by going very slowly and gently around a couple of different times, so that now our first disc looks more like this. I'm going to show you one more because this is something of a practice makes perfect process. You might have noticed that as I picked it up, I flipped it over in my hands. That's because the top side is frequently a little bit drier than the bottom side. Bottom side gets stickier, and I'm trying to avoid touching anything that's going to be extra sticky because they can stick to my hands. It can be a little bit more challenging that way. However, if you go slowly, if you're careful not to let it drape over itself or get stuck to itself, you'll see that it doesn't take long to pull yourself a nice, broad, beautiful sheet of matzah dough. These are now ready for the final step before they go into the oven, and that is to dock them, to perforate them using my secret weapon, the rotary docking tool. You can use a fork, you can use pretty much anything that pokes your dough, but for my money, rotary docking wheel will dock your matzah like nobody's business, unless your business is like professional matzah docker, but that's kind of sandbagging, and I don't think it's in the spirit of this video, so we're going to move on. I have here my emotional support peel, and I'm going to put a little bit of flour right here on its surface because, once again, anything to minimize the amount of friction, the stickiness of this dough is something you want to do. To move the dough to the peel so that we can put it into the oven, I'm going to pick it up and flip it right over, face down. Again, that keeps it, makes it easy to slide into the oven, which has been preparing for an hour, preheating at 500 with pizza stones because matzo cooks on stones. If you haven't got your oven ready, do that now and catch up with me in an hour. I will see you then. All right, party people, after all this time, we're actually ready to put some matzo into the oven. Let's take a look at how that's going to work. And we're in. I'm going to set the timer for 3 minutes. And I'm going to take this time to roll out my next set of doughy balls. That'll be balls number 5 and 6, so that they're ready when I'm ready to roll the next setup. Maybe it's balls 3 and 4. Whichever ones, we're going to get them next. I'll see you in a couple of minutes. Or 3. Okay, thank goodness you're back. It has been 3 Earth minutes, and I am about to flip my matzo. You should watch. Could be fun. And that's all it takes. You might have noticed I've got a thermometer in there, so I'm sure that the temperature is staying up high around 500 degrees. I'm still going to set my timer for 3 minutes. And I'm turning on the light because at this point, these matzo might be done in 2 minutes instead of 3. As soon as they're about half toasted, I want to pull it out. And I need to keep the light on so that I know exactly when that happens and I don't let them get too far and get burned. In the meantime, while I'm doing that, I'm going to dock out balls 3 and 4. I should say sheets 3 and 4. Those are the next ones up. I just rolled out 5 and 6, and I'll be able to keep the assembly line rolling. And as soon as these come out of the oven, I'll put them into a bowl to cool. And we'll talk about how to handle that and the next steps forward momentarily. Talk to you shortly. I got some matzo to bake. So this is what I mean by putting them into a bowl to let them cool. And this is what I mean when I say half toasted. It is a somewhat context intensive phrase, but here you see that there's leoparding on about half of the surface of the matzo, and the other half is still pale. You also might notice that there's some flour sticking to the surface of the matzo. I have here a matzo brush, sometimes marketed as a mushroom brush, but I use it a lot more this way. Just gently but firmly give it a quick rub down and gussy it up for guests and company. And while you're doing it, take a look at what you've accomplished here. Because congratulations, we've done it. And by it, I mean creating 8 absolutely gorgeous sheets of delectable matzo. And by we, I do mean me. I'm the only person who did any work here. But you sat through a whole video, so I'm going to give you partial credit. And a legal disclaimer. Caveat kashrut, if you will. This matzo is not kosher for Passover. However, it is 100% righteous. It will make you happy when you're eating it, when you're making it. You give it away to other people, you'll be happy to give it and they'll be happy to get it. The ancient writings say that matzah, the eating of matzah, is a way to gain momentary access to the Godhead of positive energy in the universe. That is asking a lot of a piece of flatbread, but I've eaten this matzah enough times to know that it's a reasonable request. This is the matzah of redemption, and now its secrets belong to you. And with that, we come to the end of our time together. On behalf of Kitchen of the Dan and Hydropup International, mahalo for your kokua, matzah amigos.